political developments in Lesotho when Moeketsi Majoro took over this week as Lesotho's Prime Minister from the embattled Tom Thabane. How might Dr. Majoro break the seemingly perpetual cycle of political instability and economic frailty in the mountainous kingdom? Joining us now for a view from the ground in Maseru is journalist Herbert Moyo. Good afternoon to you, Herbert. Thank you so much for your time and for joining us on our program this afternoon. A lot of developments and changes have been taking place in Lesotho in the past couple of months, more so in the last couple of days and weeks. Perhaps, and I want us to give us an update, or rather breakdown, of the latest changes which have been taking place in Lesotho, where we've seen the resignation of Thomas Thabane.
Good afternoon to you. Yes, it has been a momentous week in the political developments in Lesotho, in the history of Lesotho politics. First of all, in the sense that you have a new government in place, and this new government is composed of the biggest political parties in the country, namely Dr. Thomas Thabane's own All Lesotho Convention Party and the main opposition Democratic Congress, which is led by Mr. Herbert Moyo. It's a historic development in a sense, because even though you have had coalition governments coming into play in Lesotho for close to 10 years now, since 2012, but the situation has been that the two biggest political parties, the Democratic Congress and the ABC, have not been in the same coalition government. They have always been in an antagonistic position. But now what we see a situation where both of them are in government, with Dr. Majoro as the Prime Minister and Mr. Moyo as the Deputy Prime Minister. Even they do have the support of smaller parties, which have also come in to solidify the coalition as part of the process of ensuring stability in the government. So you have some of the ABC's traditional allies being the Lesotho National Party and the Reformed Congress of Lesotho joining in the coalition on the side of the ABC. And then you have some of the parties that have got Congress leanings, like the Movement for Economic Change, the Popular Front for Democracy, also coming in to join the coalition. It's essentially an ABC-DC coalition, even though there are smaller parties involved as well. And we also saw on Thursday the announcement of the new cabinet. Some people might say it's bloated because there's a lot of people there. In essence, so far there's 24 ministers and 8 deputy ministers. For a country of the population size of Lesotho, which is 2.1 million people, some people might say it's big. But then when you understand the dynamics, the need to balance the conflicting interests in the government, then you will understand why perhaps it's necessary to have this rather large cabinet coming into play. So it does have members from the All Lesotho Convention, it has members of the Democratic Congress and the smaller parties that have joined in the coalition representing each of the parties. So in essence, they have only got 2 years to make their mark, because in 2 years' time, Lesotho is due for elections. So in essence, this government is just coming in to complete the tenure of the previous government under former Prime Minister Thomas Thabane. They have 2 years in which to make their tenure. But when you look at it, if they pull in the same direction, then what they need to achieve, the mandate that they have, is achievable. Because one of the things they need to do is to resuscitate the reforms process, which has been affected by the infighting in the main party, in the main governing party, that is the All Lesotho Convention. So Lesotho is due to implement constitutional, security sector, media, governance, judicial reforms, which were recommended by SADC in 2016 to ensure stability in the country. But these reforms, they have taken a backseat due to the infighting in the parties.
And now, Herbert, I wanted to take a look at the issue when it comes to restoring matters of faith with regards to the government. We were looking at this new government. The people of Lesotho are pretty much excited for this new change. Does it signal some sort of reprieve for the people of Lesotho when it comes to really stabilizing the issues of politics in that country?
There is hope, because like I was saying, this is the first time you are seeing the ABC and the DC. These are the biggest parties in the country. You are seeing them together in government for the first time. really. So there is hope, but it all depends. On one hand, you have this aspect where people talk, but what needs to happen is they have to walk the talk. They have been speaking the right language. There's a lot of excitement. Even their coalition agreement speaks to the restoration of the rule of law. It speaks to the implementation of the reforms. It speaks to stability, and then it also speaks to stimulating economic growth. So you've got all the major parties being the players in the government. And if they pull in the same direction, it will work for them. And I think the critical thing to highlight as well is that all of them are in government now, and they will be judged by what they do come the next elections in 2022. So they just have to pull in the same direction. They cannot afford to work at cross purposes, because if they do that, they will all be held accountable by the electorate. So it's a novel situation where you have the major parties in government, and they all know that come 2022, which is less than 2 years from now, they will be accountable to the electorate if they fail to deliver on the mandate that they've set for themselves. So the excitement is palpable. And what the political parties need to do is achievable, even when you look at the time span of 2 years, which is remaining, less than under 2 years, which is remaining. If they pull in the same direction, it is achievable.
And now lastly, Herbert, before I let you go, you're mentioning that the government has now only 2 years to sort of make their mark and really create the change that they've been wanting to create in that country. But let's look at what will be topping the agenda of this new government as they're taking over. We know that these changes are coming at a very critical time where the entire globe is dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. But perhaps then, when it comes to transformation issues around the economy, what's on the to-do list of the newly coming government?
But the first, even though the government is big in terms of the size, one of the issues that has been identified, fortunately the Prime Minister himself is a former finance minister in the outgoing government. There's so many things that he has spoken into that needed to be done, and now that is at the helm of the government, perhaps this is his opportunity to actually achieve what he has spoken about. One of the issues which probably they will receive a helping hand from the COVID-19 situation is cutting down on unnecessary government expenditure. Foreign travel, there were lots of those under the previous administration, and Majoro was at pains when he was the finance minister to get his colleagues to accept the cuts on those foreign travels, unnecessary foreign trips. That's one of the things that they have to do. The other thing, which probably will be a big challenge, is to cut down on the size of the civil service and make it more efficient. It's one of the prescriptions that the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, has often said to need to be done. It's one of the things that the IMF has often said needs to be done before Lesotho can even get any kind of assistance from the IMF. And this was not possible because on one hand, the problem there is that civil servants, they are quite an influential constituency. You need the vote as well. And the government being the biggest employer in the country, when you cut down on the civil service, it's like you are also eroding into your support base. But then these are tough decisions. They need to be done. So cut down on the size of the civil service, balance the budget as well, ensure maybe even in terms of the revenues that are coming in, that's slightly out of their control. The revenues from the Southern African Customs Union, which the country depends on a lot to balance its budget, they are currently obviously being affected by the slowdown in the global trade.